Wind River is Taylor Sheridan's newest screenplay turned to film and is also his debut into mainstream film direction. It is directed by Taylor Sheridan and stars Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen. So, I was very much looking forward to this movie. Sicario is great, not so much because of his screenplay, but that also was a big factor in it. And, Hell or High Water, I made a top 10 movies of 2016 list, and I had La La Land at 1, Hell or High Water at 3. If I were to remake that list now upon rewatching all these movies, I'd probably put Hell or High Water as number 1. I absolutely love that movie, and I think that is actually completely due to the screenplay of that film. So I was very much looking forward to this movie. I really wanted to see what Taylor Sheridan would do for his third screenplay, and at the end of the day, this is a great movie. I thought this movie was incredibly well done for a number of different reasons. Now, I wouldn't say it's his best screenplay. I think Hell or High Water is still better, and I shouldn't just say best screenplay, his best movie. I think Hell or High Water is a better movie than this one, and I'll kind of get into why. There are things I don't like about this movie as much as the things I like about this movie, but the things I like about this movie are so significantly better than what I don't like about it that it ends up weighing towards the side of me liking it every time. So I'm going to real quick talk about what I didn't like before I get into what I did like, because it's so much less in the didn't like. There are two primary things I had an issue with in this movie, and they all fall under, well, the first thing is the first 20 minutes of this movie. It is very choppy, it's kind of off-putting, and it's not very well done. I wouldn't call it bad, I'd call it mediocre, because there is intrigue within it, but not enough to the point where I'd call it a good start. It's a pretty rocky start, to the point where I was a little concerned with how the rest of the movie was going to go. It was just the feel and the tone of it was very off with the other, hour and 20 minutes of this movie, and then the dialogue even was kind of shaky and not that great. It was just sort of generic, and I don't know, it just felt very strange. It did not feel like Taylor Sheridan's writing style or any kind of directing style at all. There were some weird cuts I didn't like. The editing was a little off at the beginning. It felt in a way, and it's strange because I doubt they filmed it chronologically, but it almost felt like Taylor Sheridan was kind of getting his footing in directing. He has directed a movie before. I believe it's called Vile. But it's one of those movies that nobody's really seen. I don't think I've never seen it. I had never heard of it until I was looking through his IMDb page. But it did. It felt like he was kind of gathering his footing as he was directing this movie. And I must say, when you hit that 20-minute mark and the story really kicks off, this movie really goes places. It really goes all the way. The second issue I have falls in those 20 minutes, and it's some weaker support. I don't want to say it's in the first 20 minutes. It's some weaker supporting performances, 3 that I noticed. And I say supporting strongly because I think that the people behind this movie kind of knew that they weren't that great, and thus they're not in very much of this movie at all. There's one kid actor who plays Jeremy Renner's son, and he's not very good. He's very he's just kind of a boring kid actor who you can tell doesn't really have much promise. And there are good kid actors out there. You know, the one I always point to is Jacob Tremblay, and Abraham Atta is the other one from Beasts of No Nation. Those are the two working right now. I truthfully believe that Jacob Tremblay should play every child in every movie. I don't even care what the character is. I absolutely adore that kid. That kid is awesome. He's a great actor. He's super cool, and he's adorable. I love that kid. Aside from that, he just, I don't know, he was okay. He really didn't. There should have been some emotion in some of the things he was delivering, and there just wasn't. The same goes for the person that plays Jeremy Renner's ex-wife, who is in 2 scenes, and is just very bland and emotionless, which was kind of annoying, because the dialogue that was written for her seemed like it was supposed to have emotion, considering the backstory of Jeremy Renner and his ex-wife. I kind of wanted to see a little more out of her and the son, but I didn't really get that. And the other one is actually quite the opposite. It's the guy that plays the dead girl that the story centers around. Her brother was a little over the top, and just he has this one totally cheesy line where it's almost like one of the no, but it's with what, and the camera pans out. I don't know if that was a weird directorial choice or if that was actually him having kind of a weaker performance. It was one of the two. One way or another, it was not great. But that's the only scene he's in, so, it didn't impact the movie entirely. But other than that, this movie really, really, really works. I want to talk about Taylor Sheridan really quick, and I know I keep gushing over him, but there is a reason. His writing style and why he is such a great writer comes down to layers. He has been able to take genres or storylines so far that can become cliches, like Hell or High Water. The Western genre or the crime genre is sort of delving more into cliches as it goes along, and that storyline is, pretty straightforward. Two brothers trying to rob banks so that they can raise a certain amount. This movie, similar. It's, detectives find this dead girl and they try and figure out her murder. Whatever. Both relatively generic plots. But what Taylor Sheridan is able to do is add something to those plots. He really builds it up, and it's almost hard to describe because of how subtle it is. You get these really strong characters in Hell or High Water and in this movie. Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen are pretty strong characters. There's a lot behind them. There's a lot of subtle development behind them. There's a lot of really good stuff behind why they're doing what they're doing, and a lot of that is conveyed through their dialogue. They're very consistent characters. They develop in a way that feels natural, and they're set up in a way that feels natural. That's what really works about Taylor Sheridan's writing. You can tell he's a very characteristic writer. He's very centered on character. I think that's a very big part in his writing, but he's able to do that as well as bring some really great dialogue, because there is really great dialogue in this movie. There's some really creative dialogue, some innovative dialogue, there's funny lines, there's dramatic lines, there's kick you in the balls lines. He does a really, really great job with the screenplay, and it's a very big reason that this movie works. Those characters, obviously, that I was just talking about are clearly backed by great performances. The one great performance that is very noticeable is that of Jeremy Renner. We all know Jeremy Renner's a good actor. I love Jeremy Renner. My favorite performance from him, personally, is in The Town. I think he is batshit crazy in that movie. He gives everything in that movie. He gives it his all completely. And even with Jeremy Renner, if you give him a shit character or a shit script, he'll still find a way to make something interesting out of it. Like with the character of Hawkeye, which I think most people agree is the worst character, and one of the worst characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then you have the character he played in that shitty Bourne movie, and he's by far the best part of that movie. Him and Rachel Weisz, they have this center of gravitas about them that both of their performances bring to it. Jeremy Renner just has that ability. He doesn't have to worry about that in this movie because he's given a good script, so he's able to really do his own thing without having to worry, man, I gotta take this shit dialogue and make it interesting. He's very subtle in this movie. He has a lot of emotion behind him that he conveys in a very natural human feeling kind of way, which is really what this character should have been, and I think he was kind of perfect casting for this part. Elizabeth Olsen I wouldn't call phenomenal in this movie. She's really good, and it's it can be kind of rare to see a good performance out of her, whether that's because of bad script she's given, the Old Boy remake, or Avengers Age of Ultron, which is she was not so great in, and I don't like that movie, but it's nice to see a good performance out of her. I thought she did a very good job. She did her job. I don't know if I would say she really went above and beyond, but she did a really good job. The other performance that I noticed as being really good, I hate not knowing his name. I should have looked it up. It's my bad. It's the guy in Hell or High Water, Jeff Bridges' partner. He plays the girl's dad in this movie. He's actually great. He's a performer that I first kind of noticed in Hell or High Water, and he was pretty good. Unfortunately, he had to rival people like Jeff Bridges and Chris Pine and Ben Foster in that movie, but this time around he's given a lot of screen time and a lot of stuff to work with, a lot of really good lines, a lot of really good direction, and he's really great in this. You really understand where he's coming from when he's angry, when he's sad, when he's sort of happy to see somebody. He really conveys all of that stuff very well. He's more hard to explain. He just really embodies his character in a way that that character should have been embodied. The other thing I want to talk about is Taylor Sheridan's direction. This movie has proven that he is a really good director. He's a very good director. And that's really heavily shown by the climax of this movie. Climax of this movie, I would say, is this 15 to 20 minute long sequence that is absolutely brilliant. It is one of the best sequences made all year, and I think it's worth it to go to this movie just to see that sequence. It is gripping, it is intense, it is thrilling, it is edge of your seat, gripping the arm of your chair. It is excellent. It is excellently directed, it is excellently written, executed, performed, whatever you gotta say. It is really, really great shit. And it makes you realize that he's a really good director, because everything else up until that point has been strongly writing, but you get to this sequence and holy shit, it just goes off the wall. It is absolutely incredible. There's a really cool kind of surprise in this part if you haven't really been following too much about this movie. That's kind of cool when it shows up. And I thought that entire sequence really showed that this guy can direct a movie, and I think we're going to be seeing him direct movies in the future. Soldado, I know he's not directing it, but it's the sequel to Sicario. At first I was very like, there doesn't need to be a sequel to Sicario, but the more I hear about that movie, the more interested I get in it, especially with Taylor Sheridan's involvement again, even though Denis Villeneuve is not attached to that movie. I would absolutely recommend this movie. I think it's one to try and get out there and watch. It is hard to watch, actually. There's one specific scene in this that's pretty fucking rough, and like, you know it's coming. Like, it's one of those, you're sitting in your chair and you go, oh shit. You know it's gonna happen. It's a rough movie. It's a little hard to get through at points, but it is a great movie. I think it's absolutely worth getting out to see. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. Despite a choppy beginning, it really regains its balance and becomes great. Could have been amazing except for that beginning. I really wish that beginning had been a little better. So, what did you guys think? Have you seen Wind River? Have you not seen Wind River? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.